how that works. So let me start again. With my gratitude for American Business Bank for their generosity on behalf of small businesses, and you'll hear a little bit more about that from them, for this effort to not only make sure that they are sharing grant proceeds with small businesses to assist in the recovery from the pandemic, but also some critical training to enhance business acumen and financial literacy, business financial literacy, so that whatever happens in the future, whether it's a pandemic or another relationship, that your business is stronger and better and more equipped to deal with the whatever's in life that happens in business. I'm going to share a few ground rules and then review what's in the grant application and what you're required to submit and provide as a result of the grant, as well as this training curriculum. So let me start by saying, in terms of use of the webinar, we've done this in a Zoom webinar format so that we could make sure that we're having some real-time conversation with you, but we'd ask that you direct any questions that you have to the Q&A, not in the chat. We're seeing a lot of you saying hello in the chat to make sure that we know that you're here. And we definitely know that you're here. We're able to collect a participant list to document that you are participating in the webinar. So there's no need for you to continue to document that in the chat by saying hello or hi or putting your business name. We do have that information. In addition, we're running a poll. And in that poll, it's a poll to allow us to better understand some information about you as a business and the information that will be covered today on planning your growth. And so we ask that you would please take that poll. The people on the AmPac team, Richard Pillay and Brian Kennedy, will be answering questions in the Q&A button, so that when you ask your question, we'll try and provide the answer. And then if we need to do that live, we'll do that so that everyone has it and it's being recorded. This session is being recorded so that, and will be posted on YouTube. So if there's some information covered that you didn't quite get down, you'll be able to listen to the recording again. And then you're going to get a participant guide handout on the material that's also being covered. Our goal is to make sure that your business is prepared and has the maximum opportunity for success in planning your growth. And again, that's what the generosity of the American Business Bank grant is designed to do, to not only provide a grant for those who are successful in the grant process. And let me just mention again, it is a competitive grant. It is limited funds, but we're so excited that there's no limitation in terms of the opportunity for you to be able to learn and get some really great tools for your growth. So again, thank you so much for coming. In terms of and I'm going to introduce, I'm saving the best for last as I introduce the team from American Business Bank who's on the line. But I wanted to just give you a little information or reminders about the grant. The grant, again, is competitive and the funds are limited. The grant is designed to support small businesses in the recovery process. And you'll hear from Bruce from American Business Bank, who will share some more information about the commitment that American Business Bank made to this effort and why they made this effort to invest in small businesses in this way. The other thing that I wanted to share about the grant is that you have a couple of steps in this grant process. One is the training process. In addition, we have an application for you to complete, and that application is on the AmPac website. Hopefully you have had a chance to complete that application. We will have 3 sessions for training, but as a requirement to submit the grant, you have to attend at least one of the sessions. The grant requires that you submit the application form, submit your business tax return, and that you ensure that your business is in proper standing with the state of California through the Secretary of State, as well as having a business license. Those are absolutely required for us to even put your application in the competitive grant process that does have limited funds. We're going to tell you a little bit more about some of the other resources that are available to businesses, but in this grant program, the 3 steps: you need to complete your application, you need to submit the requisite forms, including your business tax return, your most recent year. Businesses that qualify could be businesses that started as early as January 2020. So we would expect that you would have 2020 tax returns for the business. If your business is starting over, this is another unique part of this program that American Business Bank was so committed to. If your business is starting over because the pandemic, you were not able to be sustained because of the pandemic and you're starting over, then your tax returns from 2019 will be acceptable. And then we'll see any information that you have on your start over business. If you have questions about that, you can certainly direct those questions to our team. Finally, the session is being recorded. The recording is going to be on YouTube. And so if you have if you need to get a repeat, you'll be able to get that information on YouTube. And then you're going to have a pre and post survey of what you've learned in this session. And there will be a few questions for you to answer as a result of being in this session. Please make sure that is included in your application, or it won't be considered for these limited funds and this competitive grant. With that, I'd like to go on and get ready to start the presentation. I'll introduce you to Bruce, who is the Executive VP over over risk management and CRA for American Business Bank. I have had the pleasure of working with Bruce for a number of years and was just absolutely thrilled when he brought this opportunity to AmPac for us to be able to serve the community in this way. So Bruce, on to you.
Well, thank you. I'd love to be able to share my video, my face, but apparently something's restricting me from opening up my video.
Okay, well, we'd love to see you, but go right ahead.
Okay, well, thank you for that kind introduction and also the promotion. You made me an executive vice president. I'm pretty sure Omar's shocked by that one too. I am a senior vice president with American Business Bank, and but I appreciate it. Yes, there you go. There you go. I like that. I do appreciate it. And we're very happy and very honored to be part of this program. Omar is one of your board members, and much like the bank, we like to support our employees and people within the community and our work in the community and the community itself. In many ways, American Business Bank itself is a small business. We are a community bank. And while we're just about $4 billion in assets, and that doesn't sound like a small company relative to a lot of the people out there in banks, we're a small business. So we relate well to the community, and we like to reach out and be part of it. The bank's been around for about 22 years and always been involved in our communities. So when we found ourselves doing all these PPP loans this last year, and we made some money off of it, the board of directors are actually the people that came up with the concept of we should invest some of this money back into the community. And they came up with this idea of reaching out to an organization and having them administer this grant program for us. And luckily, we already had in our sites AmPac and Hilda and the wonderful job and things that they're doing out in the community, and being able to partner with her and participate in this program is really a tremendous honor. And we really like the idea of being able to put the money back in the community, particularly in a time when so many small businesses are hurting and they need to get back on their feet. Again, we believe in the small business community. We support it. We like to see it grow and help it grow. So really, the genesis is our own genesis of where we came from and building our business, helping you build your business and be able to participate in all of that, and using the funds that we actually got from making PPP loans to put back into the community. So again, honored and happy to be able to participate in this program, and with such a great organization as AmPac. We couldn't be more thrilled to be part of this BIPOC and Women Small Business Grant Program. It's where the money belongs, and we're happy to be part of it. Thank you. Hilda, it's back to you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Bruce. Well, we are going to, there's a lot to go through in this training. So Brian or team, if you could advance the slides, we're going to just give you a little bit of background about AmPac and some of the resources that are available to you as small business owners. As a partner with AmPac. We've already covered the welcome, a little bit about American Business Bank and its commitment, and now we'll talk a little bit about AmPac Business Capital. And again, on the call with us is Richard Palais. Richard is our Senior VP of Community Lending, and Brian Kennedy, who is the Ecosystem Director for AmPac, our Entrepreneurial Ecosystem. So I will turn it over to Richard to tell you a little bit about AmPac and some of our programs for you.
Thank you so much, Hilda, and good afternoon to everyone that is attending and joining us on today. We can press that next slide, thanks. Look, so happy to have everyone here joining us, and Hilda has done an excellent job in her introduction and who we are. So I want to talk a little bit more about the operation in and of itself. We are a 501c3 mission-based lender. What does that mean to you? For some of you who may not have heard of that, you've heard of the 501c3 as a nonprofit organization, but we are licensed and dangerous, if I may say. The U.S. Department of Treasury has granted us a CDFI license. What is that? Community Development Financial Institution. That means we make the rules, we make the decisions, and we ensure that the funds that are granted to us are responsibly given to those businesses who qualify. Well, not only was the state impressed with us, the federal government was also impressed with Hilda and the work that she has done starting this organization over 14 years ago. And they granted her a Community Development Company license as well, CDC. So those licenses empower us to be here to serve you. We partner with banks like American Business Bank, and there are many others that we partner with, but especially today, we're highlighting a key partner of ours to talk about what we will do together. We will work together to uplift communities, strengthen families, and advance entrepreneurial dreams. That is a mouthful, so just say we represent America, USA. Next slide. We finance businesses at all stages of growth. So for those of you that are on the line that you're a newer business starting in 2020, welcome aboard. We appreciate having you. We're here to help you outside of this grant if you're seeking financing. And for those of you who have been around long enough to say, Hilda, it's time for me to buy my real estate, She's going to give you that great smile that she has, and she's going to say, come on into our doors and let's get you that building. We have the ability, working along with American Business Bank, to help you do that. What's wonderful about the program, the SBA program, it's called the 504, gives you an opportunity to get up to 90% lending between the bank and the CDC on the purchase of that particular building. And we're happy to say that Hilda has crafted a program called the Down Payment Assistance Program, particularly for those of you in our audience who are BIPOC and women-owned businesses, where instead of having 10% of the cost of the building purchase, so when you consider a building purchase of $2 million, for example, that means your down payment would be cash $200,000. Well, with the down payment assistance program that's only available here at AmPac Business Capital, you could bring in $100,000, and we then introduce private investors to bring in or present the other $100,000. Not a bad deal for buying a $2 million building. So please think of us. Please recognize we serve at all levels, and our loans do range from $5,000 to as much as $5 million. Next slide, please. As we were talking about lending. We were talking about government-backed lending. So when we talk about government-backed loans, we're talking about the CDFI as well as the CDC side of the shop here at AmPac Business Capital. And what you want to remember is this just means that we have the support of the federal and state government to help you with the lending that you need. We do provide direct lending. This is right from us. Sometimes it's in conjunction with our banking partners, but with the funding that we have, we're here to serve you and serve your business needs. Again, as mentioned, 5,000. Well, this slide mentions $30 million. We're talking about very large commercial purchases, and our banks like American Business Bank love to have us involved in those transactions. But that's what we're here to do. We're here to serve. Next slide, please. Lending is available to you. Partnership. Partnership is critical. What you're witnessing here today in our session is an evidence of partnership, working along with this particular bank and working with you. Well, beyond the banking institutions that we work with, we also work with SBA programs. We work with, if you haven't heard the expression before, we like to use acronyms, so I'll define each one. We work with the SBDC program. That's the Small Business Development Center program that's funded by in part by our federal government, the SBA. There is the WBC, the Women's Business Center program, also funded by our federal government, the SBA. We work with SCORE. We work with Cal State San Bernardino will actually have a place in our entrepreneurial ecosystem that Brian will talk about later as one of our partners. What's important about this? You can receive business advising sponsored by our federal government. So basically, you're not paying for the advising in and of itself. These are not private individuals working on their own, but they're working in conjunction with funding that was provided so that we may serve you. We do this in partnership with these organizations. We at AmPac also have training programs that we offer. You'll learn about that as Brian comes following me in our entrepreneurial ecosystem. And we can't help but remind you, because of our partnerships, direct lending is available to you. Next slide, please. I'd like to take this portion of the time to say, Brian, would you tell us all about the entrepreneurial ecosystem? Thank you.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you each and every participant for joining us today. We're honored to be able to present some good training that can hopefully help you push your business forward. So what the entrepreneur ecosystem does is really emphasize focusing on making sure you have access to business coaching. There is a 3-step model that you can follow to access our ecosystem. First step, visit that app store, whether you're on the Play Store or on the iOS Play Store, and feel free to download our mobile app, AmPac Business Capital. You will be able to access business coaching pages and business consulting / mentoring pages directly from the app with the Access Business Coaching button and the Access Business Community button. We have multiple technical assistance partners who we work with to ensure that access to business coaching is as easy as ABC. So you will be able to find that on our mobile app. Feel free to connect, collaborate. If you have friends or you want to invite colleagues to the platform, we would definitely love for them to join our community. Thank you very much. And we are looking forward to our training today. At this time, oh, go ahead, Hilda. Thank you.
Okay. Great. Well, it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today, Omar Morel. Omar is a business development officer and vice president with American Business Bank. But what we're most proud of is that Omar is a member of our board of directors, and he is the treasurer on our board. And we're delighted to have Omar be here today to provide the training for all of you. You are absolutely in for a treat. He loves training and he loves small businesses and seeing them succeed. So with no further delay, Omar, take it away.
All right. Well, thank you all so much. I believe you can hear me because there's a little thing at the top that says my name and it says I'm talking. So welcome to all of you. I'm really excited to share this time with you and to walk you through our very first of 3 trainings. And you know, a little background on myself as Hilda mentioned. I currently serve as the senior SBA Business Development Officer at American Business Bank. I'm also a member of the board at AmPac. And, you know, I just got to tell you that as I was watching the chat, and there's just so much chat coming through, I'm seeing different business types and where you're from and just the pride that all of you have and what you've started as entrepreneurs. You know, whether I saw some childcare, I saw some restaurants, I saw CPAs, I saw business coaching, just all different types. And so I want to congratulate all of you for getting to where you are, wherever you are in your stage of growth or rebirth as it is, and congratulate you all for being here today. So today we're going to be talking about planning for business growth. And really, what does that mean? That can mean, again, as early as, you know, hey, I have an idea and I want to go out and start something. It could mean I'm going through a restart, or it could mean I'm going to be expanding my business. I'm going to be expanding my business through there. So Brian, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So what are our learning objectives for today? We're going to talk about how we evolve through the planning process, how we make those key decisions as business owners. How do we take a vague idea and make a plan of action out of it? The importance of making sure that as we're doing that planning, we have a healthy relationship, whether it's with our credit score, because some lenders really lean there, or whether it's with our lenders and the banks or the AmPacs of the world, or potentially even friends and family members out there. We'll talk about different things that motivate stakeholders, and then again explain the benefits of creating a day-to-day action plan. You know, and ultimately what we're really talking about is we're talking about the idea of setting goals and setting a plan of action to hit those goals, because that's in general, that's not just what healthy people do, but that's also what healthy businesses do as well. You know, you might say, hey, I want to run a marathon one day. You know, or I want to run the LA Marathon next year. That could be your goal. My wife has a goal of running the Long Beach 5K along with our brand new 3-month-old baby daughter. And that's the goal. And so she makes a plan along the way to say, you know, I'm gonna go out there every day and you know, run 10 minutes a day, and then maybe 30 minutes a day, and so on until we reach that goal. And that's the same concept as it is in your business as you're thinking about the next stage, you know, for your business there. Couple things that we're going to do just as an overview of the agenda. We're going to do a pre-test in a second. I think some of you may have already done it, and we may already even have results. We're going to go through a case study of a young lady named Sophia who's starting a business. We're going to just talk about where we are in our planning process, or at least do the best we can to interact in that way. And we're going to talk about the 4-step planning model. That it's a basis of a model that you can use to plan at any stage of your business. So let's go to the next slide. And some of you, hopefully you see the poll up. If not, Brian, if you can make sure that's launched for everyone. If you have not answered that poll yet, go ahead and take a minute right now and just let us know where you are where you are in relationship to this planning. And this is actually found if you have your participant guide actually, Brian, if you can unmute yourself real quick. Did everyone receive the participant guide before the meeting?
Yes, so I have.
Awesome, fantastic. So if you have that, go to page 23, and that's where you'll see this pre and post test form. Again, it's just to give us a sense of kind of where you are and where you'll end up at the end of the training. And then Brian, where are we about what percentage of folks have answered the poll so far, or answered all the questions there so far? Uh-oh. We'll just give everybody maybe another 30 seconds and we can close it. How's that? We'll do another 30 seconds and then we'll close it and we'll see the results.
Thanks for your patience with me in finding the mute button there, Omar.
That's all right. We're always getting used to the technology.
We have about 400 folks who have participated in the poll, and I do have results from the polls that we'll mention as well.
Yeah. That's the majority. So let's just wrap it up, go through and answer those questions, and let's go ahead and close the poll and see where how folks are feeling. Let's see how folks are feeling about the idea of planning for their business. So if you can launch those results.
All right, closing the poll now. Give folks a couple more seconds. I want to make sure we give folks a good chance here. And
I think I saw a couple of folks say that they had not received the participant guide. We'll make sure you get it after the meeting. You won't need it to follow along, but make sure you have something to write with and take notes along the way.
Just drop the guide again, folks. For those who didn't catch it the other 3 times it dropped in the chat, I'll keep trying to populate it because I know there's a lot of chat activity, but we'll try to keep it top of the inbox for you. Omar, are you ready for the poll results here?
Yeah, let's see it.
All right. So I will keep the screen on the PowerPoint so folks can see the questions. But to date, let me get this out of my way here. All right. Poll is officially closed, folks. If anyone did not get a chance, I can reopen it toward the end of our call today. But our poll results, for those who have know how to create a resource plan and calculate the assets to open a business, we have about 56% of folks saying that they do agree, about 26% of folks saying they disagree, 12% with a strongly agree response, and 6% saying they strongly disagree that they know how to create a resource plan to calculate the assets they need to open a business. For listing and describing several financing options at disposal, we have 5% saying they strongly disagree, 32% saying they disagree, 55% saying they agree, and 8% saying they strongly agree.
Okay, so it sounds like that's an area where maybe at some point we want to make sure we talk about financing. By the way, I heard something about an app earlier, so maybe check that out.
There you go. Or number 3, being able to describe what a business plan is and some of the benefits of writing one. Strongly disagree, 4% of folks, 14% for disagree. We're at 63% for agree. 63% of people agree they can describe what a business plan is and some of the benefits. 19% strongly agree. For question 4, being able to explain what an action plan is and how it can help manage and grow a business. 3% strongly disagree, 23% disagree, 62% agree, and 12% strongly agree. For the 5th and last question of being able to write a SMART goal, we have 4% of folks who strongly disagree. We have 20% of folks who do disagree. 58% of folks agree that they can write a SMART goal, and 18% strongly agree they can write a SMART goal. Thank you all for submitting your responses, and we will launch the poll again as well.
Yeah, all right, let's go on to, let's jump in. Let's go to the next slide, Brian.
Gotcha.
All right. So, oh, and again, so real quick, just to point out, so if you do have the participant guide, there are some worksheets there that you can follow along with us. But if you do not, just make sure you have something to write with so that you can take some notes. So let's talk about our friend Sophia. Okay, and so I'm going to actually read this from the participant guide just to give you a little bit of a background, and just give you a little background on our case study here. And the idea is that we're going to give you kind of a realistic example of, okay, what's it like to plan for a brand new business and the launch of a business. So say hello to Sophia. She's the mother of two smart and hungry teenagers. Sophia has an idea to start a business repairing cell phones and small appliances. Her sons and several friends think this is a terrific idea, but Sophia has to plan for it. She needs to figure out how she will make money, how she will finance or pay for her startup costs. Sophia is going to complete 4 steps in her planning. At each step, she asks and answers specific questions. As she progresses through the steps, the questions get more specific and the answers become much more detailed. It took Sophia more than 2 years until she was able to quit her day job and begin to work full-time for herself. And as we review Sophia's planning process, you can begin to apply these 4 steps into your business. So ultimately, we're talking about how is it that Sophia is going to make this cell phone business successful. And and again, it all starts with a very high concept, high end, and we're going to slowly break it down and get a little bit more detailed as we go along. Let's go to the next slide, Brian. So the 4-step, and actually before you do that, I want you guys all to take a minute to just take this note for yourself. Where are you in the planning process? If you do have your participant guide, you can go to page 5 and take this note. If not, on your note sheet, just go to page 5. And there's a place to just kind of take a look at yourself and say, hey, where am I in the planning process? And I just saw that Brian said that you can actually download the participant guide from the chat. So take a look there. Just give us give yourself an idea. Where are you? There's no wrong answers on where you might be. Some of you may just be getting started. Some of you may be writing your business plan. Some of you may already have a business up and running and you just need help delegating, or you're looking to grow to the next level and you're looking to expand your business. Right? And so regardless of where you are, this 4-step planning model is a great way to help you figure out what you have accomplished and what you need to do next. Because as your business grows and changes, the type of planning you're going to do is also going to change. And so the 4-step model helps you to go through and figure out, okay, what do I need to do next? And we're going to go through this in a little bit more detail, but high level, step 1, back of the napkin. Do I even have a business that makes sense or not? Right? I have a dream. I want to get something started. Or again, I don't know, for example, let's say, I saw childcare. I got a 3-month-old. So all of you that said childcare, like you guys all kind of jumped out to me in the chat. But let's say I have a childcare business and I want to, I'm currently located in one location and I want to grow and I want to expand my business and open up a second location. Does it make sense? Right? Is back of the napkin, you know what, I think I can make this work, or let's think about, maybe I'll come back around to it in a couple of years. Okay, step 2, it's a go. We think this idea makes sense. What do I need to make it go? What are those resources that I need to make it go? And that usually starts with figuring out what you have, what you currently have, and then what you're going to need, right? And who's going to finance what you're going to need. Some of it may come from your own personal savings. Some of it may come from a lender. Some of it may come from individuals in between. Step 3, okay, we've got these assets or this business we want to get started. How we're going to finance the business, right? What I was just mentioning. Step 4, our action plan. How will I actually manage a healthy business, right? And who are the people that I need to hire? Who are the resources that I need to hire, whether it's a vendor, a consultant, or otherwise, Okay, so it's a 4-step process that we're going to go through. So let's go ahead and jump to the next slide, Brian. All right, so let's talk about Sophia. So Sophia needed more than 2 years to get to step 4 along her way, and we talked about that earlier, right? She in her case, she had a job, and she was saying, "Hey, I'm gonna take some time to put this plan of action together, make sure I have the resources, the financing, and I can actually go out and start my business." But it took her some time, and so I think that's one thing I want to encourage all of you of is your timeline may be different. Some of you may be on a 2 or 3 year timeline. Some of you, I think we talked about earlier, some of you may be in a restart phase, and hey, your timelines are much shorter. But wherever your timeline is, or however short or however long it may be, you want to make sure that you follow the plan to make sure that you can actually execute it once you put it together. Whether it's starting from the back of the napkin plan all the way to actually implementing and getting things up and running. Let's go to the next slide. So on the next slide, we're going to take a look at Sophia's back of the napkin, right? And we all, this idea of the cocktail napkin, and your napkin may be, again, it may be a sticky note, it may be a whiteboard, it may be your journal where you're writing down your big ideas. But this is where it usually starts for you. And it usually starts with really just asking yourself some really basic planning questions, right? In this case, what are we going to do? What is it that I'm going to sell? I want to sell these 5 things, but maybe I'm not ready to sell this one piece. And again, I'm just going to go back to the childcare one because I've got babies on the mind. But maybe, if you were starting a childcare business, you may say, you know what, we're only going to take children that are already potty trained, because the ones that are not, the little ones, that can be something that we do in the future as we hire more people, for example. So you may start from a place of, I want to offer all of these great services, but maybe I'm not ready to offer one of those lines. So in this case, you see there at the top, she says fixed smartphones, tablets, appliances. Let's hold off on the appliances, right? Number 2, what's my personal credit score, right? If we're thinking about borrowing money to get things started, we're going to want to make sure that our personal credit history is in line, and business credit history is in line as well. In other words, are we paying our vendors? Are we paying other loans that are out there? Do we need a website? Yeah, probably. It's 2021. This is an old training. You probably need a website at this point. So how are you going to develop that website? Are you going to go to, say, like a Squarespace or one of those type of vendors? Or are you going to, go to you're going to hire a marketing agency? Here's the stuff that I like to think about is, who's my competition, right? Can I, if I'm servicing a client, an individual customers, can you, maybe you start by opening up Google Maps and typing in your business in the area that you hope to open it. I'll give you an example. As a lender, for example, I've financed car washes. And one of the first things that I do when I get a car wash, somebody asks for a loan to start a car wash, is I say, great, where are you going to open it? Well, I'm going to open it in such and such city at this location. So I'm going to go, one of the first things I do is I go to Google Maps and I type in car wash into around that. And I want to see, is there 20 car washes around this area, or is there 2 car washes, or maybe even none, right? So we want to make sure that we understand what our competition is. And so that we can, once we know who the competition is, then we can start thinking about, well, how are we actually going to compete with them, okay? Then here's the big one: who can help me find the answers, right? This is one of the really exciting things about the entrepreneurial ecosystem, for example. A lot of you may have some wonderful resources in your life, whether that's your CPA, your attorney, your insurance brokers, your current banker, and the list goes on, but you may only have 1 or 2 of those roles fit, and you need some of the others. So who can help you find the answers? Well, AmPac is going to be a great resource for you, or Go ask one of those folks, right? If you have your CPA, hey, who can help me answer this question about insurance, for example? Maybe they can introduce you to someone. And then finally, am I ready for all this, right? That's just a decision that everyone has to make, right? Let's go to the next slide. Oh, there we go. So in that step one, what are those key questions that we're going to be making sure that we're asking ourselves? And so this is something that I'm going to encourage you to do as homework is to go to, I believe this is on page 7 of your participant guide. Make sure that you're answering some of those key questions. What size business do we need to build? What do I need to purchase? Should I rent my space? Should I lease my space? Should I start it in my garage, for example? Who will I need to hire? Who will I need to hire today? Who can I wait on hiring, until 3 months or maybe even a year or further down the road? These are all really important questions that you're going to want to make sure that you're asking yourself. And then, it's not on this slide, but I would encourage you also to, when you, in the back of the napkin, it says, who's my competition? Great. Let's find out who that is and maybe do a little bit of research on who that competition is. Yeah. I'm sorry, Brian. Did I hear? Oh, I thought I heard something. Let's do a little bit of research on who that competition is. What are they charging? What products and services do they offer? What products and services don't they offer? Are they maybe not open at a certain time? And that's a place that you can compete with them. Because really a lot of this planning process really is asking as many questions as you possibly can. And every time you think you're done asking the questions, okay, well, let's ask another question, right? And in identifying those answers, you're going to start to put together what your plan is. Okay. So let's jump over to the next slide. Hey, Brian, I'm just seeing a couple folks still looking for the participant guide. Maybe just post that again.
Will do.
Yeah, so take a look. If you're asking about the participant guide, Brian's going to put it in the chat right now. He's just going to drop it in again.
And Omar, if I can just mention at the very end of the presentation, we're going to drop the participant guide in the chat, and then everyone who's on the webinar will receive an email with the participant guide and all of the guidelines for the application process. So everyone knows that they will get that again. We're going to make sure that you get this information. Thank you, Omar.
Definitely. All right, so we're back to Sophia. All right, Sophia. So she's got her back of the napkin. Now she's going on to step 2. She's starting to figure out my resource plan. What do I need? What do I actually need to be able to get my business up and running? And so she starts by making a list. Space, equipment, supplies. She thinks she's going to spend about $18,000. Skill development. This is something that could be, maybe she needs to train. Maybe there's some licensure in her particular business that she needs to accomplish. And so skill development, again, it's about asking questions. What is it that I don't know? Oftentimes it's the best question that you can ask is what don't I know? And maybe go ask someone, hey, what am I missing? What did I forget to ask? Right? Staff, or more often than not nowadays, it's outsourcing and it's finding other resources, whether it's somebody to handle the bookkeeping. We're going to spend a lot of time, I think it's next week or in the following week, about making sure that our records are up to date. It's so important that we're making sure that we're keeping accurate records. Other items, insurances. Am I saving money? Am I making sure, if I make $1, am I putting away a little bit just in case, or more than likely, hey, the tax man's going to come and ask for their share as well, right? Are we making sure that we're accounting for those things? I look at this slide and I think of my wife as a marriage and family therapist, and there was a time where she said, I want to go out and I want to start my own practice, and she went through an exercise very similar to this. Right now, she's my wife, so she didn't really okay, she didn't really want to talk, get too much input for me. That's great. That's probably for the best. But she came and she said, hey, what do you think about this? And it was a list that was very similar to this, right? She says, hey, you know what, I think I'm going to need, I need to make sure I go out and get a desk. I need to make sure that all my licensure stuff is up to date. I need to make sure that, there's, insurance, right? Because if something goes wrong in a session, I need to make sure my insurance is in line. And I found this great resource for that. And then I still remember the day she get very excited. I found a space that I can actually rent an office from, and so that's that list that you want to make. And, in this case, it's a very short list, but it's about you making sure that you're asking yourself the question is, what are all those resources that I'm going to need, and having a good estimate on what it's going to cost. Okay. So let's read from our guide again and get an update on Sophia's story now that she's made her list. And the update is good news. A few months have passed and Sophia has done some research. She refined her initial idea and has decided to specialize in repairing cell phones, iPads, and tablets. So we're going to leave the appliances off the table for now. She might expand into small appliance repair later, but to get to this point, she asked some colleagues who already have businesses for advice. Again, what we were talking about earlier, what don't I know? Let's go ask those questions from other people who've been there before us. So in this case, Sophia went to a local women's business center and got help thinking, replace that with AmPac next, by the way, just say, Sophia went to AmPac and got help thinking through her business model. Sophia took a course to learn more about what she needed to do to get ready. Congratulations, you all are doing that right now. And best of all, she began a resource plan to record how much money she would need to open her doors and to keep operating for at least 6 months. Okay. And then at the first step of this planning process, the ballpark dollar figure was okay. Don't have to be exact because, I forget what's the old saying, the best laid plans, right? It just, Murphy's Law, something will go wrong, right? So we don't have to be exact, but we want to make sure that we're at least accounting for as much as we can. And then as we move on, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get more specific. Okay. All right, let's jump over to the next slide. Okay, so how we're going to finance all of this? I think back up one, right? There we go. So how we're going to finance all this? And again, you can follow along if you have the guide, or if you're going to go back and review it later with a recording, you can follow along on page 9 for this one. So we've estimated that it's going to cost Sophia about $21,000 to start up and get through about 6 months of her business. She has saved up $7,000. That is her equity, and she needs to raise $14,000. Okay. And then what you'll find is, we won't go into it here, but you'll find that in your workbook, pages 10 and 11 have a resource plan worksheet for you. So you can actually go ahead and start, again, whether it's expanding your business, whether it's restarting your business, or whether it's just some future plan. Maybe you need to buy a piece of equipment. There's some great worksheets on pages 10 and 11 to make sure that you're that you're going through. So one thing that's important, is something to think about when especially if you're in the startup phase. For those of you that are a little bit more mature, this is a different conversation. But when you're in this planning phase, you want to kind of the course's advice, and I would agree would be my advice as well, is to make sure that you have your personal living expenses also planned for and kind of set aside separately in a different bucket. I think one place that a lot of business owners can sometimes get in trouble in is, we call it one pocket to the other, is you tend to do a lot of commingling. And you want to make sure that when you're doing this planning process for your business growth, that you also have a separate plan to say, hey, can I pay my bills? I've got a mortgage to make, and so those sorts of things. And then this way you can be an employee of the business versus, kind of always competing for the same dollars. What it really does is it helps you get real clarity on how much capital you actually need to raise. Because that is one place I've seen folks get in trouble is where they say, oh, I think I needed to raise this, but it turns out they didn't really account properly or think about the personal side, right? Their home, if you will, the family unit. And then the planning there wasn't always there. And so now all of a sudden the business and the individual is kind of competing for dollars. So something to think about is you want to, in the same way you're making this plan for your business, you also want to make the plan for, how you're going to live personally as well. All right, let's go to the next slide. All right, so again, a couple things to think about when you're going through this step 2. This is where we're starting to refine and dial in the numbers a little bit more, is making sure that we're interviewing stakeholders. That's potential employees, that's potential investors, that's potential lenders, competitors, other people in your network that have done this before. Make sure you're thinking about the ideal location. Here's a great, locating discounted items. There's no reason in the world why you need to spend, for the brand new, top price item when, potentially a discounted item is gonna, get you by, right? So starting to think about whether it makes sense to try to find things at a reduced cost. One way to do that is to consider buying in bulk. We're going to talk about this when we get to cash flow management in a couple of weeks, but if you buy too much inventory, that's the stuff you're going to sell. Well, that reduces your cash, and now all of a sudden you don't have cash elsewhere. So sometimes, kind of the idea of you can grow broke saving money, right? So making sure that we're considering that. Here's a big one, especially in California. Are we paying people properly and making sure that we're accounting for our employees? The wage and hour is what we call, what the attorneys call it. Hopefully there's no attorneys on the call. And if you are, no legal advice, but make sure that you have good HR advice. If you're going to be hiring folks, that you're accounting for time, for whether it's, the insurances, the disability insurance, the workers' comp insurance, or whatever the case may be, making sure that we're dialing in those numbers, right? So in step 1, big picture, I think I need 3 employees. Step 2, okay, I need to pay, employee number 1 a certain amount, and here's the taxes, here's the insurance, here's how I'm going to track their hours, here's how I'm going to do all of those types of things. Another one, kind of same idea as buying in bulk, is maybe you can, if you're going to pay for website hosting, maybe you can get a discount if you pay for the year up front, but that sucks up more cash. So now we don't have cash ongoing. So it's a consideration that you want to make sure that you're making, right? So again, step 1, big picture, back of the napkin. Step 2, okay, now we're taking those items and we're going to go a little deeper, and we're going to make sure that we're detailing out or getting a little bit more tied into what the actual cost is going to be. And again, great resources on pages 10 and 11 of your guide. Next slide, please, Mr. Bryan. All right, so step 3, okay. So we started big picture. We dialed in our costs. Now we're going to put a business plan together, because that plan is what's going to attract potential investors. Remember, in Sophia's case, we need to make up $14,000. Well, not all of us have, I don't know, a rich uncle or someone who can just say, oh, sure, here you go. I certainly don't. And so this is where the business plan comes in. Really important for the startups, for those of you who are looking to expand your business, right? You may think, well, I don't necessarily need a business plan. I'll just go to my, I can go to a bank and I'll borrow money against my house, or, whatever the case may be. That you want to make sure, even in a situation like that, where potentially the resources might be a little bit easier to come. Again, I'm certainly not in that situation, but if you are, you want to make sure that you're still doing a business plan. And what are the key components of the business plan? It's you're telling the story of your idea. We've got this great idea, and we're going to basically put something in writing that says, here's what the idea is, here's how I'm going to make it happen, and here's why I believe it will work. And in going through that exercise, you're also going to help to refine the idea for yourself as well. Really important, you want to make sure that you project out. I'll tell you, so in the SBA world, the minimum is 2 years. I always recommend folks do 3 or more years if they can. And then the question becomes, the big question becomes, well, how in the world am I going to tell what's going to happen in the future, right? Well, okay, we're going back to all those questions that we were asking earlier. Is yeah, it's a guess, and it doesn't always, work out the way that we expect, but we want to do our best effort to make a good, educated guess of, what can we expect over the 3 years. And something else that you discover when you start to do this is you may discover, actually, it turns out that in about month 9, see, you made the plan for money for 6 months, and then it turns out in month 9, gosh, I need to hire a 4th person in month 9, and I run out of money. Ooh, okay, so now I got to go revisit back to step 2 and start to adjust that plan and make sure that the funds are there, that we're accounting for that, right? That we're saying, hey, you know what, we actually need a little bit more than we thought we were going to need. Okay, and then final point there is, obviously it clearly outlines business development in financial terms. And so again, if you're going to go and talk to a lender, or whether you're going to talk to an investor, right, you want to make sure that you can present to them something that helps them understand what it is that you're expecting or hoping to accomplish. Okay. All right, let's go to step 4. Oh, I'm sorry, the next slide. I don't know. Are we on step 4? We're still on step 3. Okay. Let's go back. Sorry. Step 3. Okay. So Sophia's business plan. She actually, I've got another update from the participant guide. So let's just read from there because I like the story that they're giving us. So here's an update. This is on page 12. Completing a resource plan helped Sophia refine her ideas. For example, she discovered that she needed more money to start and operate her business than she first guesstimated. It's like I could tell the future, right? Like, what did I just say that? Oh, we discovered maybe I'll need a little bit more, right? And that's an important part of this process, is kind of checking, rechecking, and balancing, right? As part of her homework, she talked with a bank officer who encouraged Sophia to raise her credit score. To determine this, they looked at Sophia's credit history. The officer encouraged Sophia to start writing a business plan and to be ready to prove she has collateral. So in this case, she's looking for a loan. A lot of times that means she's going to be borrowing against equity in her house or condo. Sophia needed to reduce her credit card debt. She explained the situation to her kids. They agreed to eat out less often, buy fewer clothes. The older son got a part-time job. They got a cheaper phone plan. She made some cuts, right? These changes took time, right? Again, remember, this is not an overnight thing, but they added up, and within a year, she was able to pay off her credit cards and put money into savings, and she improved her credit score. During this time, Sophia also worked on several drafts of the business plan. To learn how to do this, she took a course at a community center. A mentor coached her on how to write some parts of the plan, and when her business plan was ready, she shared it with some close friends and extended family. They were impressed with her ideas and realistic goals, and together they pooled their money and loaned her the startup funds she needed to open her door. So she ended up not even getting the bank loan. I want to talk real quick about the credit score idea. And I'm just going to give you a perspective that I have, because I have always worked at banks just by chance, where when we pull a credit report, I never actually see a credit score. And so what it's caused me to do is it's caused me to learn to look at what the credit history is. And so I want to just point that out to you. See, a lot of times, I have the Credit Karma app too, by the way. So I see my score all the time. But a lot of times what's more important than the score is the credit history, right? And sometimes, we go through moments where the score may drop, but we can isolate it to a time and we make some tough choices and we work our way out of it. And oftentimes when you're talking to a lender, that's really what's more important to them than just a score. Some lenders, look, there's no question about it. There's a lot of banks and lenders out there who are basing their credit decision off the credit score. But there's a number of folks, like I just mentioned, I have no idea what someone's credit score is when I do make a request for a credit report. It's the history that matters. And so there's been times where it's, hey, back in 2014, there was a bunch of lates and they all happened in the summer. And then, I go and I ask the customer and, the prospect, and they say, well, you know what, we actually, maybe there was a situation that happened or a lost job or whatever the case may be. But you know what, we did the right thing. We paid everybody back, and then we reduced our credit card debt. And we've approved those types of loans. Again, all the other factors considering, so I'm only talking about one piece of it. But what I want to encourage all of you to do, I guess is what I'm saying is, yes, credit scores are wonderful. And it's a really easy way to say, yep, we're in good shape. But make sure you're worrying about the credit history and your use of credit as well. Credit cards can be really expensive. And so, make sure you're thinking about that when you're looking at your credit history. So, all right, let's go to the next slide. All right, so in this case, we talked about how Sophia found the money that her shortfall, right, from her family members. And again, depending on your type of business or where you may be thinking about, be sure to open up your mind of what's possible out there for funding your growth, whether it's whether it's a new business, whether it's a growth, whether it's whatever the case may be. There could be an angel investor. It could be bootstrapping. What does bootstrapping mean? Is, hey, I'm going to, I'm going to cut out all of these extra expenses and I'm just going to make it work. It's really tough to do, but I know a lot of great businesses that started that way. Could be crowdsourcing, friends and families, incubators, right? Really interesting kind of concept that, is kind of growing. There's a lot of local and state aid out there. A lot of that stuff gets funded or funneled through places like AmPac. Peer-to-peer lending, right? So just other folks saying, hey, yeah, I'm willing to take a chance and I'll let you borrow the money. Small business loans, that's kind of where my background is. That's a big part of what AmPac is doing as well. Or it could be venture capital, where you're actually selling a portion of your equity. And look, a lot of people say, no, I want to control my business, right? But if you're willing to consider that, maybe that's the right option, right? Because it helps you reach your goals. So, the big takeaway from this slide here, and again, it's on page 15 of your guide, is to make sure that you're thinking about all of your options there. All right, let's go to the next slide, because we're running short on time. So what does it mean to be strategic? Again, making sure that we're thinking about the future, that we're planning for change. Something will always go wrong, and so along the way, we want to think about what our plan is, what the risk associated with that plan is, and what are we doing to mitigate that or to minimize that risk. So that's where that action plan helps you to remain strategic. All right, let's go to the next slide. So what was Sophia's action plan? And again, I'm going to encourage you all to go to page 16, because we are running a little bit late. I think we were supposed to be done at 2, correct? Yeah, so we're going to go through this quickly. Sorry, I talked too much, everyone. I apologize. So make sure you go to page 16. But really what I want to talk to you about to kind of wrap things up is the idea of making a SMART goal. What do we mean by SMART? Something that is specific, right? So what are we looking at here? The goal is to achieve an average monthly customer count of 500 within 3 months. That's specific. We know the number, right? 500 average monthly. We know the time frame. It's reachable. It's realistic. It's a realistic goal. So we want to make sure that when we're going down and working on our action plan, that we're making SMART goals, and we're laying out, okay, with that goal, what are the tasks I need to accomplish? What does it mean to be successful? How are we going to measure it along the way? That's the M in SMART. What's the time frame, right? When do we need to be finished? And then what resources do we need, or how are we going to actually accomplish it, right? Let's go to the next slide. All right, and then again, so just to lay that out, a lot of us know what SMART goals are: specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, it's relevant, right? Is it applicable, right? A lot of times we come up with goals and it doesn't always fit, right? Is it time-based? And that's what that chart that I think is on, we said page 16, is going to help you do. Okay, so now next slide. All right, and so overall, what are the key points? And let's start to wrap this thing up. So, there's more than one way to plan, and everyone is going to be in a different stage of planning. But really, what we're going through is we're starting from that high concept, back of the napkin. Is my crazy idea even make sense? Does it even work? And then we start to say, okay, you know what? I think I can make a go at this. And then what's step two? All right, well, here are the things that I'm going to need. Here's what I'm going to miss, what I'm missing, in getting to making this go. And then step three, all right, well, now we got to really actually start to dial this thing in. Originally it was estimates. Now I have to go out and actually start to talk to people and say, what are my actuals? Start to make a business plan. What am I not asking? What did I miss? Who are my advisors? Who are my resources, right? And then step four, we actually go out and we start to engage stakeholders in the process, whether that's lenders, whether that's investors, whether that's employees, whether that's potential customers, and say, you know what, I've got a plan, it's written, and more importantly, I have an action plan. And so we want to partner up with you to make this happen. All right. So let's go to I think that's the last slide there. So we'll just benefit summaries and risks. We've been through this. Let's go ahead and go through the next slide so we can start letting people jump off. And then I think I'm going to hand control back over to Brian. I think there might be some questions if people can hang around if you do have time. We do want you to do a post-training evaluation. So I'm going to hand it back over to the AmPac team. And,
Okay.
And thank you all.
Thank you so much, Omar. It was thorough. I know you get into this because you love small businesses and trying to get them all the information that they need. So we have a post-training poll on. We understand if you have to drop off, but let me tell you what you can expect. So everyone who attended the webinar, we will send you a copy of the recording of the webinar. You are also going to receive all of the documents required for the application process for the grant. You're also going to receive information on the grant and the grant parameters and a copy of the form, the pre and post training survey, and that includes information for you to summarize what you learned. Some of you have been in business for a longer period of time. No matter what time period you've been in business, having a SMART goal and being aware of it and documenting that is still really, really critical. We appreciate the time you've spent investing in you and your learning. I'll emphasize again, this is a competitive grant. The funds are limited, but there is no limitation in the education that you will get in the training webinars. And we certainly hope this was beneficial to all of you. The next webinar, the schedule will be, the next webinar is next week. The information will be sent to all of you so that you can participate in the next webinar. It is required that a minimum of 2 webinars be attended in order for you to compete for the grant, along with the other requirements that's documented. Again, we really appreciate you being on the call. Thank you for participating in the post-training poll even now, and we'll look forward to being in touch with you. If you have any questions about any of the material that was shared today, the participation guide, or any of the loan programs that we shared with you, please don't hesitate to reach out. I know there were several questions that we all tried to get to in answering those. We're here as a resource partner for you. Again, thank you so much for calling, and thank you so much for participating, and we'll see you next week.